All right. Good evening and welcome to the second public meeting for the Lee County MPO Safe Streets for All project. My name is Frank Domingo. I'm a consultant with Stantec Consulting Services, and I'll be your host today. But we're going to start off with a little PowerPoint, and I'll take you through the steps. Here is the agenda. We started a little early, but I think we did a scan of the parking lot and we didn't see anybody else coming in here. We're going to go over the some of the infrastructure ideas, go over some of the policies, and then we're going to do a little breakout. We got three tables here. We're going to deal with one of them is going to have speed management and enforcement, some the bicycle pedestrian improvements over back in here, and then the intersection safety. What we'll do is we're going to gather up in our little breakouts and then report back at around 6:20. So this is the team that's here today. Don Scott from the Lee County MPO Executive Director. Matthew Marr, who is, I'm standing in for Matthew Marr. He had a baby, his family had a baby, so he is on home maternity leave. We have several folks from Alicia Gonzalez from Public Engagement, Dana, and some of those folks are out around the room. You already saw me, Frank Domingo. Angela Rao from Kittleson is here, and Catherine Telez from Fear and Peers. So where are we at in the process? We have been busy. There's a lot of work that we've been doing. We've collected a lot of data. We're doing a lot of analysis, but we're right here in the second public meeting. What we're doing is getting more feedback on this before we go back and start to finalize our recommendations for countermeasures. And what in that process is we're going to develop these goals and recommendations, and then we're going to take through and document it in the comprehensive report. And what that does is lay out what the next steps are. It also forms a strategy for how do you implement? And you can't implement without funds. And that's one of the bigger pieces is, we're gonna lay a foundation for what needs to be funded, what strategies there are, what other grants are available out there, and what can be leveraged as a match to gain enough funding to implement. I mean, the goal for this plan, a plan is a plan, but unless you implement, it really, we don't want it to be something that just sits on a shelf. We want it to go actually get implemented. So what's the basis for the study? These are like not really good facts about Lee County, but this is why we're doing the study. We're averaging over 100 deaths a year from between 2019 and 2023. It's actually around 125. Averaging over 600 serious injuries per year. And if you look at this, blue and green being good, but red and orange, as you see, those are the clusters. Those are the areas where the injuries are happening. And what does that have? What impact does that have to Lee County and its citizens? Over $2 billion in crash costs per year. That is, all of those things are really big numbers, and that's why we're doing this study. So the purpose of this meeting, we've been here before. We've done stakeholder. We've also done specific stakeholder outreaches. I went to engage Estero, and I did that one as well. It's important, very important for your voices to be heard, and this is the means for your voice to be heard. So we're gonna have some open-ended questions and feedback at our breakout tables. We'll do a little Q&A feedback session at the end. And I would be remiss if you all didn't fill out the comment forms. We have comment forms out and back. Really, that's another, it's fine to do it all verbally, but if you put it in writing, sometimes you have time to collect your thoughts and send it back in. But we want to utilize the comment forms. You can also scan the QR code if you want to do something online, but if you want some time to think about it, add some additional information, please do. More feedback is better. So you saw, how many of you were at the first one? Raise your hand. Okay, that's good. We have some new folks here. This is the high injury network. These are all the different segments, and I think they're pretty obvious to most of all of you, like where the problem is. We also have a board here from the last meeting where people put green dots where they thought that Lee County should focus on. And so, combination of both things if you want to look at that graphic. So as we said, we're going to tell you once, we're going to tell you twice. Actually, you probably hear this 4 or 5 times tonight. The Federal Highway Administration countermeasures by emphasis area, why we have the breakout tables in these specific ones. Speed management, that's a huge factor in the high injury and fatality network. Bicycles and pedestrians, they are, and motorcyclists, those are the 3 most vulnerable users on the network because they're not surrounded by a car or a vehicle. Last but not least, intersections. That's where we end up having quite a few crashes, and you've all seen in the news, we've had some pretty, for lack of a better term, horrific crashes that have resulted in multiple fatalities in one intersection. I'm not going to read you every single thing on the slides, but I think I'm going to highlight some of the things that we want to emphasize. Speed management policies, you want to reduce speeds. It's something what it usually starts out with is a policy that actually comes out. But some of the actions that we want to look at, there's engineering, there's education, but there's enforcement. So improved enforcement infrastructures to enforce lower speeds, that is one that continuously gets brought up. I'm an engineer, and we're a lot of times we're there trying to see if we can engineer out of it, but sometimes it just takes good old enforcement or education to really improve. One of the other things we're going to do is we're going to evaluate speed management strategies. So sometimes it's a speed feedback sign that actually tells you when you're speeding, and maybe some optical speed bars ahead of severe curves. So it actually gives you a little bit warning when something, when road conditions warrant a little bit extra warning. Next one is on pet bike, and this one I'm going to actually do all of them. We're going to look at lighting conditions. A well-lit road is really important for safety for both bicycles and pedestrians. This morning, it was cooler for Florida, right? I had mist on my windshield, and in between the swipes, somebody in very dark clothing actually walked out, and I didn't see them until till the next swipe, and I didn't see him. So those are the things that, like, a well-lit facility, it was completely unlit, and he was wearing dark clothes. So there's a little bit of engineering, and there's a little bit of education of where something reflectorized if you're going to be out. And I know it's just, we're in the time where we're getting dark. There's opportunities to implement crossing enhancements at intersections and mid-blocks. where does it make sense? What you want to be able to do is put those mid-block crossings and emphasize them appropriately where they make sense, where people are gonna cross. It doesn't do us any good to put a mid-block crossing and then have everybody cross not where the mid-block crossing is. The other is physically separating vulnerable users. You know, it's nothing like physical barrier or space between your most vulnerable users and the and actually car traffic. So this is a shout out to Bert. Somebody asked at Engage Estero, they said, hey, is this facility a safety improvement? I said, yes. Anytime you're separating pedestrians and bicyclists from the main roadway, that is actually one of your best countermeasures. It's not a cheap countermeasure, but it is a really good countermeasure. I am from Sarasota County. We have a full-blown rails to trails, and it goes all the way into downtown. And one of the things that it's turned into is it is not just a, in this case, it is not just a recreational facility. People actually now go and move there to get to work. It's actually a commuter route. So there is, you know, there's that opportunity. And the last but not least, you know, adopt a robust approach to identify spacing of locations for mid-block and pedestrian crossings where the crossing is high. Put the crossings where people are going to use them. It sounds very basic and simple, but you'd be surprised. Some of the others, an LPI, leading pedestrian interval. What that means is pedestrians cross first. They get the first 3 seconds to get across, right? They don't have to wait. And that is something that gets used, if you go to another country, pedestrians are usually first. That's actually not a new idea, that's an old idea. They've been doing it in Europe and different places for years. But we can definitely evaluate the corridors where that makes sense. And again, you're gonna focus on where the problems are at. I think, so what this demonstrates is the cars have red, the walk goes first. So they get across first. So there's, you know, the opportunity for conflict is actually basically taken away or diminished. The next crash countermeasure is lane repurposing and road diet. I've done a few of these. They make a lot of sense. They're very successful, but they are not universally loved. You know, finding a way to implement quick build projects is really the way to go with these countermeasures. Again, separated multimodal facilities. That is probably the best measure for bicycle pedestrian. Here's a photo of it, an example of it, where we've created some parking, created some friction, got rid of the continuous two-way left turn lane, and put some landscaping. I mean, it doesn't, safety doesn't have to be ugly, it can be beautiful, right? That's the point of this slide. It also is the way to get additional buy-in from the community. Additional ones, crash access, corridor access management. You know, reducing the number of conflict points. If you've got to cross all these different driveways, that every single one of those is a conflict point. And so, two things. One, for bicycles and pedestrians, it's going to be safer, but it actually helps with cars as well. It reduces crashes that way as well. So, what we're going to do is, we are assessing unsignalized and uncontrolled intersections on the high injury network, and going into our toolkit of proven countermeasures to try and implement those. Again, you heard it again, you're gonna hear it again every time. You know, develop more mid-block pedestrian crossings with appropriate traffic control. One of the things we're going to be talking about is the intersections, right? So signal phasing and timing adjustments, prioritize separating conflicts, such as a protected left turn, a yellow change interval, or, for vulnerable users, you want to give them, you want shorter cycle lengths, but you want to give them enough time to get across, right? And I think that's really important. So one of the things we've been focusing on is that, and we are engineers, we're evaluating left turn high crash locations for protected or permissive, or protected only phase, at phases at intersections. What that means is making a left on a green ball, that, it's more efficient, but it leaves, in some cases, it leaves up too much up to judgment of the drivers. And so you all have had some pretty bad left turn crashes in the last couple of years at a couple of intersections. And I think that, it's not as convenient, but if we're gonna put people first, and if we're looking at safety first, that is, to me, it's not really hard to make that recommendation to go switch that to protected only. We also could consider a flashing yellow arrow. Those have actually statistically been shown to increase awareness. It makes that flash makes them think twice, and actually that 1 second of pause makes all the difference in the world when you're doing a left turn. So I believe that's something like a 20% reduction, I think, statistically, just from the flashing yellow. You're gonna get it really good if it's fully protected. So, okay, I'm on schedule. This is good. Check it too. I'm not looking at him going, he's not giving me the sign like, hey, speed it up a little bit. What we're gonna do now is break up into, go to breakout tables. This one right here is about intersections. Showing my age. Bicycle pedestrians and speed control. So if you would like to break up into, go to the table that you want to be at, we'll have a facilitator at each one. Angela, are you doing, which one are you doing?
I thought I was doing speed, but I'm willing to do any one, but whatever you think is
be
appropriate.
decisive and pick one.
Speed,
Because
speed it
is. Catherine?
I'll do the bike ped.
And I will go ahead and do the intersections. So we're gonna ask some open-ended questions, we're gonna take some notes, we're gonna have you all discuss, and then we're gonna come back and report when we reconvene.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Really good feedback. And y'all are passionate, which is good, but also very articulate and well and educated on the subject. So appreciate that. I'm gonna move to, where are we? Okay, we just did the breakout session, so I'm giving you a choice. Do you want to do a 5-minute recap on each table and report back, or do you feel that you have? Do you feel your voices have been heard? So I'm gonna put it back to you. Do you want to do a quick recap? Does anybody want to do like a? How do you feel about that? Because we've captured a lot of notes. We had we picked people with the best penmanship to write. Diana, definitely, he didn't pick me.
Why don't you just let the leaders recap what happened and we'll respond?
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so the other groups can hear what the other groups had to say.
Sure. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that then.
Well, thank you, Frank, and thank you, folks. Before we had the speed management session, I was 6'2". I am now 5'9". So we had a great discussion. A lot of your term was perfect, passionate. A lot of passionate comments. Folks serious about this, serious about what's happening with safety, and so no particular order, I'm gonna just highlight some of the elements that were talked about. And please, if I've missed anything, again, I was 6'4" before, so. We talked a lot about enforcement as being a sort of quick solution that could be done quickly with some element of satisfaction in terms of action. And particularly if done collectively by the three levels of government, FDOT, county, and local governments collectively. So that was an interesting comment. Talked a lot about potential speed feedback signs as an interesting solution, again, to reflect back on citizens. We all make mistakes, we forget sometimes, it might be a good reminder. I think, Carl, I'm gonna blame you. You said something like, "But can you move them around? Don't keep them fixed."
Placing in one area.
Right, yes,
I
thank you.
know I got.
Thank you. Another person made an interesting point about development, that sometimes could it be that developers might, could it be that we give them maybe perhaps a little bit too much rein in terms of how they build their entities? Could they be held a little bit more responsible for transportation safety? So that was a comment that was made as well. Other things like, there was a thing about turnout, that we'd like to see more turnout at these meetings, and I explained that I think the counties and the MPO has done everything in their power to try to get the word out as much as feasible. But sure, we could always use more participants, no doubt about it. There's an interesting comment about culture of safety. It was mentioned a couple of times, that the culture of safety needs to be changed. That could there be a way of influencing folks to think differently about the automobile as king and queen? Could it be a different way of looking at other users as being a cultural change to safety? Somebody made the comment about, could we then flip it around and look at engineering first versus enforcement first? You see these varying opinions. It's gonna happen with passionate people. You're gonna hear different views. So things like road diets that you mentioned earlier. Then the notion, and I full disclosure, I did lead a little bit, I'll be honest with you, full disclosure, on the notion of quick builds. I talked about that, would you be interested in hearing the notion of quick build? And Frank, for the record, I did lead that, I'll be honest with you, because I wanted to hear a response to that.
I was on the PowerPoint too. So.
Oh, it was, okay, good. Okay. So that was interesting in terms of looking at things like if a road diet is too big and too expensive to implement, could you do a quick build that you could simulate a road diet or some other kind of, say, a cycle track or something like that, that could be easier and less expensive to build and therefore have earlier results. I want to make sure I've got a couple more notes and I promise I'll finish. There was the notion of early win. I think one of our folks really wanted to see that. Could we chalk up an early win, like maybe enforcement or maybe a quick build or something that's visible and responsive quickly? And there were then an interesting comment about technological changes. Could technological changes help enforcement, help engineering, help education in terms of bringing a different type of solution that would bring us to the touchdown line a little quicker? For example, red light cameras is talked about. For example, speed enforcement, electronic speed enforcement, like they have for school zones. Could that be expanded somehow? Now that's legislation, that's not local, we understand that, but still, it's the concept. I think, Frank, you mentioned the thing about predicting red light running, a prediction and then preventing the crash electronically. And finally, the comment about, this is kind of interesting, which is kind of surprising almost, that local roads are being used as the bypass for major roads, because major roads get congested, safety issues ensue, and folks go to local roads to get through the system. So, have I missed anything? Is there anything that I missed that you want to reflect?
You hit it on everything.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, appreciate it, thanks.
All right, I'm Catherine Tellez with Fair and Peers and help facilitate the bicyclist administrative session. We talked about a lot of the same things related to enforcement, sort of the culture, behavior, but really it's just the design of facilities here for people walking and biking has sort of been an afterthought. It's sort of, in a lot of places you don't have sidewalks. In a lot of places you might have a 4-foot shoulder area that's pretending to be a bike lane. People don't feel safe riding their bikes there. So really looking at where we can make, you know, protected bike lanes, make sort of those safer facilities that are separated from vehicle travel. We also talked about some of the development codes, so as developments come in, making sure that there's seamless, easy pedestrian access. One gentleman pointed out that, you know, as the crow flies, it's, you know, a 1/10 of a mile to get from his house to a shopping plaza, but because he's gotta walk around, it's almost, you know, a 3/4 of a mile walk to get around. So really thinking about that permeability as developments come in, and looking at sort of that spine through the county for walking and biking connectivity and then connecting. So I think there's a lot of overlap on the speed management side. We also talked about a desire to do some pilot projects. So on that lane repurposing project that Angelo mentioned, can we put in a protected bike lane or some other facility? Let's just try it out, see how it goes. If it doesn't work, we can try something else. If it does work, great, we can put in something that's a little bit more permanent. And then also talked about some joint efforts between FDOT and the county as well to kind of get things to happen. Did I miss anything?
I think there was one thing I keep coming back to, our group keep coming back to, is there are things that we should be doing now that are already proven, and that was, what's the
leading pedestrian
leading
interval.
pedestrian, you know, those things have already been proven, don't need to pilot them, people don't like them, so what? We need to go, we need to start getting some wins, somebody said, get some wins. And then the pilot projects, I think that was it.
I'm gonna try to do this without notes, Diana, and I'm gonna work from memory, but I think it was pretty good. I had a really good discussion, kind of focused on the North Cape, which has a lot of infrastructure needs. And while it was intersections, it started with intersections. There's a lot of multi-lane with turn lane, stop controlled intersections. One, it's got a lot of degrees of freedom, if you will. There's a lot of conflict points in there. He described it as 12 intersections essentially at an intersection, because when you've got that many lanes and a 4-way stop, one, you've got confusion from the get-go. Two, folks who don't know what to do and when to go. So when you've got that confusion, it just basically ramps up the safety concerns in there. Three, a lot of them are in areas where there's schools. So we kind of got into the lack of, especially on the North Cape, the lack of sidewalks to schools there. They've got crosswalks at that intersection, crosswalks, but everywhere else, all leading up to that crosswalk, there's a big gap in the amount of sidewalks there. So we talked about, like those are very basic things, right? The basic infrastructure is not there. And the question came to, why is that? Part of it is that the original development pattern did not have sidewalks. So there's a lot of missing infrastructure, especially sidewalks. And with that as well, we're into the season now where it's dark in the morning, and not only are there not sidewalks, there's not street lighting. So there's a great need for that. So that those are like the absolute basics of infrastructure are sidewalks, bike lanes, street lights, and then where you meet traffic signal warrants. This gentleman here indicated that there's probably at least 30 intersections that meet traffic signal warrants where they just don't have the money to go and build it. You want me to relay that number to Don on the how much it costs for, how much the gap for the price for sidewalks on one side on all, if you put them on all the Cape Coral roadways, one side, $1 billion, both sides, $2 billion is the number that has been estimated. So it is a big, there's a lot of challenges there on the financial side. However, longer term, right? You all hit on it, is the prioritization of safety and the preservation of human life and the absolute basics. I mean, that's still, it's a financial challenge, but there is, that's the purpose of the study. Purpose of the study is to, somebody said, well, what's the next steps? The next steps is we identify all the problem areas, but a plan that just identifies problem areas is just a list of problems. Part of this is, what are the countermeasures that we're gonna recommend that go in there, so we're gonna put some priority on there. The other side of it is, we should be recommending best practices to get them funded. It doesn't all magically happen, but what you wanna do is be in a better position to get that funding. Implementation is really important. A plan without implementation's just a thing up on a shelf. We really wanna get to implementation. So, recommending some types of strategies to bundle projects together, looking for easy wins like small things, what I call no-brainers, right? For me, the no-brainers are at intersections. I know it's not as efficient, but protected lefts, where how many deaths do you have to have at an intersection before you decide that you're actually gonna do something and you're gonna choose safety before everything else. So if you read the first transportation policy that's in basically every comprehensive plan in Florida, it says develop a safe, efficient, convenient transportation system. The first word's always safe, right? So that's the point I always make, is like, it's right in your policy that this is what you have to do. And so that's part of it. So strategies to bundle things, strategies to go and get different sources of money. This fine gentleman here was like, we have to go get state and federal funds. We gotta leverage local funds against it to try and get the highest priorities implemented. If I'm missing something?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to add one thing, I'm sorry, but the cutoff for applications for federal funding is April. So, I don't know what your timeline is for this project. But,
We're gonna wrap up by March, however,
Okay.
but it doesn't
Yeah, a little
mean,
bit fun.
but, so here's the thing, just because it doesn't have to be linear, right? If we've got a bundle of projects that actually make sense to go in and put in for the next wave of safe streets, I think that is, that's what actually should happen, right? Part of this is we wanna organize it all, have the information available, and make it easier for the different jurisdictions to apply. The other side of this is, I will tell you this, that multi-jurisdictional applications, if you get all the municipalities and the county together and the state, and it's all, you kind of agree that, hey, these are some of the priorities, that puts you in a better position. Anytime, hate to use a insurance commercial thing, but anytime you bundle them together, they like it better, because the two things it does is, it shows that the community is unified, and that you've actually put aside boundaries to go together in that. And that's the other thing I see on grants, and federal grants, state grants. So that's part of our recommendation is, here's some strategies that help you position better to do it. In North Carolina, they're doing mobility on demand, and they did a big old grant. What did they do? They got 11 different entities to go in for that grant and said, hey, we all want to try this to make it better. Same thing, I think the same thing applies, is I think that unification of a community, doesn't have to be a single voice, but a unified voice asking for it is one of the strategies, so.
I mean, to piggyback on that, I think they just did the similar thing with the resilience recovery plan that they did, where all the different municipalities all jointly accepted that plan, and they all put their little part into it, and it's all one plan for our resilience recovery for the county. Maybe you could create a similar plan
Sure.
that they can all sign off and accept that plan, and they all sign off on it.
If you've got similar priorities, together you're always gonna do better on that, really. I mean, that's part of it, right? There's politics and all that, but if you can transcend the politics and actually do, you know, and actually go in and do a unified plan, you're at least gonna, you know, you have a better chance of success. And if you've got, I mean, and you know what it takes for infrastructure, right? It takes community wherewithal, but it takes money. Let's just be realistic about that. So the best position is a unified community, jointly going after, the funding. That's the way, that's the path to success. So, and I went off on a little commercial, I mean, the other part was my commercial of what is this gonna do, so, but that's where we're at. I think we got, again, we're right here. We're gonna take it through some of the other committees at the MPO, but we're also gonna, work towards finalizing the report. And y'all are pretty familiar with this, but there's about, how many, we've given them every single which way that you can actually provide. You can provide feedback here, you can search through the QR code and actually put it online, you can call in, but, please, couple things, if you can, y'all are here, so we know we're gonna get your feedback, but if you can, like, tell some friends and have them also provide feedback, give them that QR code. We got a bunch of handouts, as you can see out there, so please do not have us kill those trees in vain. Please use those and take them with you, okay? And, if you look at that dashboard too, right, we're gonna have the dashboard online there, right? That's a lot of crashes. That's a lot of fatalities in the last 5 years. And that's a lot of injuries. So I feel like, you know, keep up the good work. And we'll put this online too. We're gonna put this online, right? Or make that
It is now.
Where are the slides available at?
The presentation, I think she's already
She just
loaded
did.
on our website.
It's on the website,
Yeah.
yeah.
www.leempo.com.
She already put it on the website.
Yeah.
The same presentation he went through, you'll be able to find it
Yeah.
online.
We'll load them on there. I know. See, the thing is, if you take a picture of it, then I'm always in it, and you're like, golly, you sent me everything. Last but not least, again, QR code. Any other QR code? Please get your feedback in, and we really appreciate it. Any other questions, or have I talked too much? He's not giving me the hug.
Excellent, this was excellent.
That's great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I mean,
And if you know of someone else who's interested in providing their feedback, you can share their QR code, you can give them the email, you can give them our contact information, and we'll be more than happy to take their comments.
all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred.